Ladies and gentlemen, 3 years ago, I made a video that was the evolution of Nuketown, specifically going over all of the different Nuketown maps, discussing the differences between them, and then going in depth with the various different Easter eggs that each map has. Because you may not know this, you may know the main mannequin Easter egg, but each of the Nuketown maps actually has their own other individual small things, and that is no different whatsoever with Black Ops Cold War. But since I made that video 3 years ago, 2 other versions of Nuketown have been released. We have the Black Ops 4 version of Nuketown, and of course the Black Ops Cold War version of Nuketown that came out yesterday. So in today's video, we are going to be reigniting this once again and going over the evolution of all of the Nuketown Easter eggs. Now, if you enjoy these type of videos and maybe want to see more like this, going over the evolution of other things throughout the Call of Duty series, be sure to hit that like button. Let's aim for 15,000 likes on this video. It would be absolutely insane, and if we get that, maybe we'll continue this with something else, and you can let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see the evolution of in regards to all Call of Duty series. It doesn't even have to be just the Black Ops games. But without further ado, this is every Easter egg on Nuketown maps in all of the Black Ops games. So starting out, we have Black Ops 1, the inauguration of Nuketown. And as far as this map goes, it was immediately popularized because it was different than any of the other maps. The bright color scheme was completely different than the rest of Black Ops 1's maps. And on top of this, it was tiny. Now, this map was stylized after a 1950s nuclear test facility, and the interesting thing about this is it wasn't actually designed after anything in Call of Duty. It was designed after a movie, Indiana Jones in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. In this movie, at the very beginning, Indiana Jones, aka Harrison Ford, finds himself in this exact town, and the similarities are remarkable between the two. You can literally see a yellow house, mannequins, and by the end of the story, the Nuketown literally explodes, very similar to the ending of every single Nuketown map. Now, the interesting thing is we know that Rome wasn't built in a day, but Nuketown as a map only took Treyarch 2 days to actually build and develop. And it's one of the only maps that's been in every single Black Ops game since. Moving to the actual map's Easter eggs, this is one of the maps with the actual least amount of Easter eggs. The first one was the sign. This is an Easter egg that's been in every version of the game, and this sign has a population counter. As people die, the population drops, and as people respawn, it goes back up. This is something that's pretty cool, and we will see over and over again. On top of this, there is an RCXD track that goes outside of the map that you can use the RCXD to flank around your enemies and try to kill them. And then finally, we have the big one, the mannequin Easter egg. Again, something that returns on every map, but is a little bit different. In this game, if you shot off all of the mannequins' heads in under 15 seconds, so basically you needed a teammate to do this, Sympathy for the Devil, which is a Rolling Stones song, would actually play. Now, why that song? I don't know. It's just something that they chose. Now, I can't show you this because my video would get copyrighted. You're just going to have to trust me on this one. On top of this, another cool feature of the map is the 2 houses, the greenhouse and the yellow house, both had a mailbox out front, one with the name Woods on it and one with the name Mason on it, the 2 main characters of Black Ops 1. Now, the only other thing to mention here is the mannequins. In this map, the mannequins were dressed in 1950s attire, and we'll see mannequins change very much so throughout the different maps. But as I said before, this is just the beginning, and from here things would escalate further in Black Ops 2. So in Black Ops 2, Nuketown's map got even more interesting. It was technically called Nuketown 2025, but took place in the 60s. Everything was 60s themed, but in the future. Essentially, this was supposed to be the town of the future that also mocked a nuclear testing facility for some reason as well. Now, this was a kind of cool combination, but in all, it was called Nuketown 2025, which is weird because it literally takes place 5 years from now, which is kind of mind-blowing. Now, a lot of the Easter eggs we already talked about once again returned. First of all, we had the mailboxes once again with Mason and Woods on them because they were 2 of the main characters in the campaign. On top of this, we also had the Nuketown sign return with once again the player count or population, if you will. And there was once again the RCXD track that went outside the map into your opposing team's spawn. Now, as far as the mannequin Easter egg, they once again upped this one by adding in something completely different. This time, if you shot all of the mannequin heads in under 2 minutes, so yeah, you had much more time with this one, the Nuketown sign would actually turn into an arcade machine, and you can play 4 different Activision classic arcade games, some of which include River Raid, Pitfall, and Kaboom, which, if you remember, were actually some of the games that were involved in the Pawn Takes Pawn Easter egg for Black Ops Cold War, which is pretty interesting. Now, at this point, Nuketown was starting to solidify itself as a Black Ops staple, but the question was, what were they going to do with advanced movement and Black Ops 3 and a small map like Nuketown? And thus in came Nuketown 2065, or Nuketown 3, Nuke 3 Town, Black Ops 3 Nuketown. Now, you may notice at the end of that it says Nuketown Offline, and that is because all of the multiplayer maps in Black Ops 3 were actually a simulation that you were fighting inside. I'm not going to go too in-depth with that, we've talked about it many times in the past, but that's basically how the multiplayer worked. So the map that you're on here, which is Nuketown in the year 2065, is a complete simulation. That's why there's really not much around the outside of the map. And personally, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this was actually my favorite Nuketown map. I love the aesthetic of it, the bright colors, and I actually like the way the 3D movement worked on it. I know I'm probably in the minority on that one. Now, on top of this, Nuke 3 Town, or Nuketown 65, has the most Easter eggs by far out of any of the maps. Starting off, once again, the Nuketown population counter returns on the Nuketown side, which is even more futuristic than we saw before. Now, this is actually the only Nuketown map that doesn't have an area for your RCXD to go, but you could drive your RC along the wall in the middle of the map because of 3D movement, so it's kind of replaced that way. On top of this, we have a couple of Easter eggs that pay homage to the older Nuketown maps. The first of which, inside one of the buildings, you have a small model of the old Nuketown sign, as you're seeing here, and then in the opposite building, you have little models of the mannequins from the second, or Nuketown 25. On top of this, in the middle of the map, there's a little terminal that you can go look at, and on it, you'll see the old names of the Nuketown maps listed in order, almost as if they could load into the simulation as well, which they never did if you didn't play Black Ops 3. And then on top of this, they have one of the most interesting mannequin Easter eggs ever. First of all, if you shot off all of the mannequins' heads in a given amount of time, they would start chasing you around the map, coming at you, and they can even kill you. But on top of this, there is a second mannequin Easter egg for the first time, where if you shot off the head and arms of the zombies, they would once again chase you, but if you looked at them, they would stop moving. This is called the Weeping Angels Easter egg, and yeah, it is by far the creepiest Nuketown Easter egg that we ever got. And then people said enough is enough with the 3D movement, and thus came Black Ops 4. So the Black Ops 4 Nuketown went in a completely different direction. They went with a Russian Cold War nuclear launch facility, not a testing facility, which is completely different. Every other facility that we looked at was actually a testing facility, not a launch facility. And they went with the Cold War aesthetic in Russia, so everything was a little bit different. So in this case, the mannequins are fitted out with Russian Cold War garb, and if we go and look at the Nuketown side, we can see some Russian writing, as well as, once again, a population counter, just like all of the other Nuketown maps as well. The RCXD Easter egg once again returned, but this time instead of driving outside the map, you drove under the map, and you could actually see the nuke underneath Nuketown, which was pretty cool. On top of this, the mailboxes returned, but this time it was not Woods and Mason, it was Russian characters, hence the Russian map, and we had Viktor Reznov and Petrenko, two of the Black Ops Russian characters. It was pretty cool to see the return of Reznov. The other one that we have other than the mannequin Easter egg is a slideshow of older Call of Duty maps that played on the map. Most of these actually ended up coming to Black Ops 4, for example, like WMD. Now on this map, there's only one mannequin Easter egg, and it is if you go on the map, shoot off all the mannequin heads just like before. This time, a nuke in the middle of the map would launch into the sky, an explosion would happen, and mannequins would start falling from the sky, and then once again attack you. So very similar to the Black Ops 3 one, but this time a nuke launched from the middle of the map, hence we know it's a nuclear launch facility, and then mannequins would attack you. Now we mentioned that this was a Cold War facility, and speaking of which, the next map that we have, and the final Nuketown map that we have, is in Black Ops Cold War. So honestly, this Nuketown definitely has the least amount of Easter eggs out of any of the map, but one of them is probably the most important one. We'll get to that in a second. As far as this map goes, it takes place in the year 1984 in Nevada, in the desert. Now, on this map, basically this is an old Nuketown facility, very similar to the first map, but it's essentially 30 years after it was built. Like the first map, it took place in the 50s, but this one is 30 years later, after people have been squatting there. They have put clothes on the mannequins, and the map has become something else altogether, covered in graffiti, and all in all, just dirty. Now here's where things get interesting. When we look at the Nuketown population counter, it once again returns. Like I said, it's been in every single map. Now, the one thing that you're going to notice about this sign is it's labeled Site B. Now, there's a little bit more to this. As I mentioned, this map is located in Nevada in the desert. Now, if we go inside of one of the garages, we can see a map with a B and an A. And if we look in the direction of the A on the map, there is a giant crater, as if a nuke went off. What this tells us is that this is actually the sister site to the very first Nuketown map that was in Black Ops 1. Hence why the maps are so similar. The only thing separating them is a period of time and a big-ass nuke explosion. So yes, off in the distance of this new Nuketown map is where the Black Ops 1 Nuketown used to be. On top of this, we also have the RCXD track that once again goes outside of the map, almost identical to what it was in Black Ops 1. As far as the mannequin Easter egg in and of itself, it's pretty straightforward this year. First of all, there is an Easter egg for shooting off all of the heads. If you do this, the entire map turns blue, a monochromatic blue, and it goes to what you are seeing here. If you shoot off the arms and legs, it turns into a black and green version of the map, once again monochromatic. As far as I can tell, nothing else happens like mannequins chasing you. It just changes the entire aesthetic of the map. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the final Nuketown Easter egg. So ladies and gentlemen, that is every Nuketown map, their backstory, and on top of that, what all of the Easter eggs on each individual map are. If you enjoyed it, like I said before, if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to hit that like button. Let me know down in the comments what your personal favorite Nuketown map was. And of course, if you like what you see, want to see more videos like this one, be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. We are getting closer and closer to 1 million subscribers. I would love to hit it before the end of the year. So if you're not already subscribed, make sure you do so. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, peace out.
We are reaching for the stars.